Hello, I'm James Cridland, the radio futurologist, and this is Radioland, my international radio trends newsletter from radioland.email. And this podcast is sponsored by rss.com. BBC Radio 4 Longwave 198 closed down early on the 27th of June from Droitwich, Westerglen and Burghead. Here's a little bit of what it sounded like.
4 or 5, occasional rain and fog patches, showers later, moderate or good, occasionally very poor. And that completes the shipping forecast. Well, before we leave you tonight, I just wanted to take a moment to mark the end of an era. For almost a century, the long-wave transmitters have carried the BBC across the airwaves, from the iconic Droitwich transmitting station in Worcestershire to Westerglen and Burghead in Scotland. And though the long-wave signal is fading into history this morning, the memories and the connection it created will endure forever. We shall miss your warmth and crackle.
Yes, definitely a crackle. It was the last of the Western European broadcasters to leave, and almost all broadcasters using longwave have now vacated the band. All that remains are state-owned radio stations from Mongolia, Poland, Algeria, Morocco and Romania. You'll see plenty of comments about the coverage of BBC Radio 4 longwave, but fewer comments about how many people actually owned a radio capable of picking it up. I've yet to discover any proper research about that, or data about the number of shortwave receivers either. Certainly in my last 10 years in the UK, I didn't own anything capable of picking longwave up. An emergency broadcaster is only fulfilling that purpose if it's broadcasting to people who own the equipment to receive it. Tune into 198 Longwave now, and this is what you'll hear.
You are listening to 198 kHz Longwave. BBC Radio 4 is no longer available on this frequency. However, you can find Radio 4 many other ways. You can find BBC Radio 4 online via BBC Sounds. Radio 4 is available on DAB digital radio and through your digital television, including Freely. Radio 4 is also available via FM radio on 92 to 95 MHz and 103 to 105 MHz. Plus, you can listen via your smart speaker. Just say, play Radio 4. Information on how to listen can be found on the BBC website at bbc.co.uk/reception.
I tell you what's a little bit weird about that. Why do they say through your digital television, including Freely, when Freeview, Freesat or Sky also exists as well? Who knows what's going on there? Anyway, if the future is internet radio, it's not really the present, then the Choyong A8W internet radio looks interesting, incredibly well spec'd for apparently £29, according to a review I found on YouTube. I can't find it at anywhere near that price. The cheapest I can find is 93 Australian dollars, which is 48 quid. And as somebody comments on the YouTube video, if Choyong disappears tomorrow, so will your internet radio service. Still, it's Wi-Fi, but it also accepts a SIM card, which is impressive, and it has voice-activated searches on it as well. It looks to have been available for over a year. I link to a written review of that in my newsletter at radioland.email. Also, I linked to a brilliant YouTube video, not much to do with radio, but still, it's from a random YouTuber called Chris Spargo, better known for making videos about British litter bins, whether you need to preheat your oven really, or the number of jokes on penguin biscuits. But he was asked by YouTube if he wanted to cover the G7 alongside proper journalists, and so he did. And it's a really fascinating look behind the scenes at the media apparatus set up to cover an event like that. Really good and worth, 40 minutes of your time to watch it. He is also, as of this recording, the last person to interview Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. And his last question was, what is your favourite flavour of crisps? Well, I don't think I have a favourite flavour of crisps. Actually, he did bother to answer the question, which was quite good of him. Online radio station NTS has a shop, and the NTS Autonome radio player is a beautiful piece of kit. It offers both live radio stations and access to the ambient audio streams from the station as well. It turns out that it also acts as a Spotify Connect receiver too for your hi-fi. It's £129 for you. Goodness, less if you're an NTS supporter. And finally, I don't really want to write about ARN again this week, but just to note that after getting rid of the toxic Kyle Sandilands completely, although they're taking a 20% share of his new online venture and giving him $1.5 million to promote it, so maybe not that toxic after all, ARN is once more in the spotlight for poor talent decisions. TV presenter Karl Stefanovic, who is, I think, most famous for interviewing me twice in recent months on the Today Show on 9, as well as wearing the same suit on TV for a year and nobody noticed, which is pretty cool. He also has a podcast, and on that podcast he recently interviewed and praised Tommy Robinson, a far-right activist and convicted criminal from the UK, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon. And when that episode was released, 9 Entertainment were displeased and promptly terminated Stefanovic's contract. Stefanovic was signed by ARN in a, quote, landmark multi-platform deal in May for a weekly show on Gold, which was also streaming on 9 Now. But after just 2 shows, Stefanovic wasn't on that radio show this week, and ARN are apparently weighing up his future, according to reports. Not quite sure what weighing needs to be done. His co-host is Eddie Maguire, who has made racist comments on a previous radio show, threatened to drown a female journalist on another, and made jokes about a double amputee on television. So it was a curious choice of ARN to knowingly sign up this kind of guy, especially after attention from pressure group MFW, the group that has already cost ARN $26.4 million in lost advertising. But if Maguire's new colleague Stefanovic is giving glowing, uncritical coverage to a racist and criminal, it seems to me that whoever is making talent deals at ARN should get their deal book confiscated before they do any more damage. Now, where am I speaking next? I am speaking next at Radio Days Asia, which is in Jakarta in Indonesia. It's well worth going to. RadioDaysAsia.com is the website where you can get tickets for that. I will be talking about radio's international trends and its future, which is all to do with the people who listen. Plus, I will also be at Podcast Movement, New York City, which is between September the 14th to the 18th. Looking forward to that. And I'm going to be in the UK in early October. I wonder what that's for. As well as in Berlin slightly later on as well. So looking forward for that. The Berlin one isn't something where you can come and watch me speak. Not unless you work for that particular radio company, but the one in the UK may well be. So, anyway, we'll announce that as soon as I'm able. And thank you to the many supporters of my newsletter, including Jacquard, including Broadcast Radio, Studio, Soma FM, thank you, Rusty, and admaster.info, as well as personal supporters, David Furnham, Marty from New York, Gavin Watson, Greg Strassel, Sam Phelps, Richard Hilton, Emma Gibbs, Jocelyn Abbey, and James Masterton for being regular supporters. If you would like to support my work in any way, then you can buy me a coffee. Buymeacoffee.com/James Cridland is where to go for that. You can either give a one-off coffee or 5, or give regularly if you want to do that too. There is also an email version of this newsletter if you would prefer to read it. That is all good. radioland.email is where to go. And my website has more details about who I am and what I do and whether I can help you further. That's at james.crid.land. And until next time, keep listening.